Hello and welcome to the pod. I'm your host Zach, and this is
Quincy
and
Molly.
Today we're going to be talking about what it truly means to be human. All humans are unique, but we share many characteristics. To truly understand the human experience, one must experience a genuine connection with other human beings, have their own individual thoughts, and feel an extreme range of emotions.
So, what does it mean to connect with other humans? First, let's look at what humans who don't experience connections with others are like. Take the case of Oxana Malaya, a Ukrainian woman who spent the first 6 years of her life with dogs. When she was discovered, she showed multiple dog-like traits, such as walking on all fours, carrying food and other objects using her mouth, and even barking over any form of human language as a form of communication.
That's crazy. Yeah, I can't imagine growing up with that kind of neglect.
Yeah, to the point where she was left outside for 6 years. I think it's kind of crazy that nobody was able to discover her in a way, basically. If she spent the first 6 years of her life outside, I feel like somebody would have noticed and hopefully would have done something sooner.
Yeah, and just the fact that she acted so dog-like. She really wasn't experiencing human connection, which meant that she wasn't experiencing what it truly means to be human. What do you think, Molly?
Yeah, I think that having a connection with other human beings is extremely important. Being connected to your friends, your family, literally anybody is just a vital part of being a human, and I can't imagine life without that.
Almost every single person on this planet has at least some sort of connection, kind of like what Molly said with it could be families, friends, loved ones, significant others. Everybody has somebody that they can talk to or just be around, and that really defines somebody as a human, in my opinion.
It's our whole ability to talk and communicate ideas and feelings. That's really important. That goes with connection.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us more about Oxana?
Sure. Both of Oksana's parents were extreme alcoholics who neglected Oksana and her siblings. Their neglect is what directly led to Oksana being left outside one night and finding refuge with her dogs. Even after her rescue, Oksana continued to show signs of inhumane behavior when anxious or lonely. During a documentary focusing on Oksana's life, Oksana stated, quote, "When I am lonely, I find myself doing anything. I crawl on all fours. This is how lonely I am." Quote.
That's so sad. Yeah, I think that loneliness really illustrates the lack of connection, and when you don't have that connection, how bad that feels and how awful that is, and the abuse that she faced.
Especially at such a young age, when her mind was so moldable.
It really hindered her development.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, still being in the early stages of just developing as a human being, she was robbed of the connection that most children, typically all, experience with their parents or siblings or whatnot. What all humans typically have, she had with dogs.
Yeah, no, definitely. Some of my first memories are of my mom and doing laundry with her or going to a park with my siblings and her, just that early connection of hanging out with my family.
Yeah, basically all of my memories from young childhood, I have little to few memories of it just being me. It's always been me, my family, or me and my friends, or even just me in school or something like that. I've always had somebody in my life, and I feel like that's what made me who I am.
Yeah, I grew up having a daycare in my house, so I always had people around, people my age, adults coming in to collect their children after the workday was over. So I was always around people, and I truly cannot imagine what that would be like to not have that connection.
I'm just an extrovert, so I get my energy from being around people, and with my father owning a business, he's always having people come in and out, and so even if I don't really know these people, I'm just hey, hi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the opposite. I'm an introvert, but I still need that connection. Even if it, like, too much of it can be draining, like, it's important for my development, and, like, mentally, I get really depressed if I'm isolated for too long.
Yeah.
So, it's super important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, without human connection, Oksana, well, she acts less human. Once she has been rehabilitated, she becomes more human. By learning more language, starts developing at least a little bit more. Her mental capacity is still definitely very hindered after all of the trauma.
Did she ever learn to write?
I don't think so. I would have to research that a little bit more, but from what I'm aware of, no.
That's fair.
But this shows that to be human is to connect with others, both socially and emotionally. People need to have friends, family, loved ones to truly experience what it is to be human. Years after her rescue, Oksana goes to see her parents face to face. After lots of work, Oksana's father agrees to meet her again, but due to her being around people, she learns to forgive him for all the abuse that she faced. Unfortunately, Oksana's mother's nowhere to be seen as of now, but with Oksana's care that she's been receiving, she learns to accept what happened and try to move on, which that takes guts.
Yeah, that's incredibly hard. I don't know that I would have the emotional capacity to do that.
Me neither. If being left outside alone to fend yourself for 6 years,
Especially the first 6 years of your life.
like we mentioned earlier, that's really how you develop a lot of your personality and everything about you.
It's when you're most vulnerable. Yeah, what an awful man. Ugh, I'm sorry.
Woman.
I personally do not forgive Oksana's parents.
Me neither.
Really goes back to emotions. Emotions are such an important part of being human, and having a capacity for like a large range of emotions. To be truly human means to experience emotions. Humans feel anything from grief to ecstatic happiness. This is kind of obvious if you've ever interacted with other humans, but some people have chronicled these emotions, such as Brandon Stanton, a photographer. He chronicles on his website, New York, stories and photographs of humans, and he shares lots of emotions that they are feeling. One photo that he shares on his website is a family eating dinner, and this all at first seems lovely and happy. It's a mom, a dad, an adorable little baby, but there are deeper emotions there as well, besides just the surface level happiness and love that is present. The woman, unnamed, talks about how she and her husband had a rough start, dating in high school, but struggling because her husband was facing addiction. She shares that they overcame that together, and that although he wasn't always there for her, he eventually became a better man to help with her daughter. So that love comes from a deeper connection as well. One of the quotes she said is, "He's an amazing father. He's a protector. It wasn't always in him, but it's in him now," she says. Story and photos show how human all of us are. I mean, we all feel emotions and struggle, but because of emotions like love, overcome struggles. Many of the stories and photos on Humans of New York show this theme throughout humanity, regardless of who the humans are. Another story that was featured on there that really, I think, hit me emotionally was an anonymous woman who is pictured crying, and she talks about the guilt and loss she felt over her brother's suicide. So humans feel not just happiness, but also negative emotions as well. I definitely have experienced that in real life.
I think we've all have, at least at some point.
Definitely. Do you want to share a couple stories?
Alright, well, the first thing that came to my mind is, which brought so much emotion, be it anxiety, happiness, relief, all in like the span of about 2 weeks. So last year, I was in my symphony band class, and my band director, Dr. Ludwig, announced that there were going to be auditions for Wind Symphony. And I'm like, I'm going to try out for this because I'm going to do something new. I'm going to be so confident and I'm going to do so great. I was so confident, but then I learned who I was trying to play, I was trying to beat basically. And I got really anxious, and I spent weeks trying to practice, and I was really anxious. I felt nauseous a lot. I was really nervous. And then the day came where I was to play. But Dr. Ludwig got COVID, so it was pushed off for 2 weeks. So the moment that the anxiety reached a peak, and I was like, I gotta just play it now or else I'm gonna crack, basically. Mm-hmm. It was pushed out for another 2 weeks. So the anxiety continued to build and build. I wasn't able to focus in class, my grades started to drop a little bit. And eventually, the day actually came where I played. And I could definitely tell the nerves got to me. I didn't do as good as I was hoping. I was really, really down, thinking I blew it. I am not gonna make it in. I was just devastated. And then about 3-4 days later, Dr. Ludwig finally posted the final results. I was sweating bullets as I was looking down that list, and then I finally saw my name at the very bottom, and just the absolute weight that lifted off my shoulders and sigh of relief, where I realized all of my hard work that I put in was actually worth it. That story definitely put me through a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. Yeah, I've definitely experienced that, like the anxiety highs and like the relief at finally having something, and just overall those emotions are very human. I think when we think about things that are non-human, like robots or AI, the things that we like pull off as being not human is like not showing emotions. Like there's such an integral thing to us that like other creatures cannot experience. Do you have any stories, Molly?
Yeah, the first one that comes to my mind would be when I was about 5 or 6 in first grade. It was the beginning of the summer, and my mom was signing me up for soccer that year. And I remember distracting her as she was signing me up on the form and causing her to accidentally click the co-ed option for what team I wanted to be on. And which made it so that instead of playing in an all-girls team like I had done my kindergarten year, I was selected to be with a bunch of preschool boys. And I was very afraid that my season, albeit my second season ever, was just gonna be terrible and not as fun as my first one had been. I ended up having a lot of fun that year with the kids. They looked up to me for some reason, but
you were older than them. Of course they're gonna look up to you.
I was older than them, and I was the only girl on the team. And I remember just
in STEM.
Exactly. I remember feeling just so much fear and not wanting to go to my first meet and practice and all that. Even though my dad was my coach, just that little bit of uncertainty really ruined it for me until I started to get into the whole season and actually getting to play the games and whatnot. But it goes to show that any kind of emotions are just portrayed by human beings, whether that be fear or happiness or sadness or anger or whatever. It's such an intricate part of being a human, and it's totally normal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. That vulnerability and showing your emotions is really hard, but it's what makes us human. We have all these emotions, and how we express them, it's all so unique, and our emotions themselves are very unique. That's another integral part to being human.
Yeah, our emotions are really just unique to us too. Everybody Our emotions are unique to us, and everybody expresses themselves in different ways. Some people get a lot more angry than others at specific things. Some people get a lot more sad. Some show joy and happiness just way more easily than others are capable of. But that doesn't mean that we aren't capable of doing it either way.
Yeah, definitely. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I feel like I am definitely more likely to expose like my happier emotions than I am to just lash out in anger. I've never found myself with any sort of like anger issues or anything of the sort, so...
Really? I have major anger issues.
Yeah, I'm much more of an angry person than I am a happy person, but I do show happiness quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really worked on not being angry. That is not something I wish to be.
Yeah, it's so hard to not be.
I think it's
sometimes.
good to have like a healthy balance between happiness and just like anger and sadness. Just make sure they're all equal because you don't want to be too happy in a way. That's
that'd
something
be a
I
little
feel like
weird.
I struggle with a little bit because I end up being too happy in situations where I'm not supposed to be happy, and it's a little weird.
I was like, how can you be too happy? But that makes sense. Situational awareness. Yeah, no, I definitely have some emotional disorders, and it's very important to focus on balancing that. That's just a part of being human, I guess, though. Everyone has unique things with emotions.
And we're all proud of you for working on that.
Thank you. I would like not to punch people.
I would appreciate you not punching me. That would be nice. Please don't punch me.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, just thinking about, like, another personal story. I remember the day that my little sister was born. So, my little sister, Rosie, she is, I'm gonna get this wrong, no, she's 8 years old currently.
Aww.
And, so 8 years ago, I was 9 years old, and I remember I went into the hospital to meet her, and my mom was like lying on the bed with her, and she was so cute and so little, and I like got to hold her, and I remember being like just very happy and also just like curious because I hadn't had a little sibling in a while, and I was like, oh, what is this new baby gonna be like? And I ended up watching her a lot. And yeah, I think I really bonded with her, and like even now I still have a close bond with my little sister. We still like, we play board games, and she's really into Pokemon, so
Me too!
Great.
I'll just listen to her talk about Pokemon, or play Pokemon if she wants me to watch her play Pokemon sometimes.
Man, you're such a better sibling than my brother is. He would murder me if he saw me playing Pokemon anymore.
Gosh, well, she is 8 years old.
So what? My brother's 20.
Okay. Well, yeah, she's super cute. But yeah, I just have a lot of love for her. And I think the happiness and joy, and I do feel annoyed with her. I don't want to portray myself as a perfect person. I do get annoyed with her. But I think all those emotions also strengthen my connection to her, which is like so integral to being human too. Like the two things go hand in hand.
Totally.
Yeah. Sibling relationships are hard though.
Yeah, definitely.
It took a long time for me and my sister, who is 23 right now, to actually become like nice to each other, because she would always bully me and do all these sorts of things. But I swear, the moment that she moved out and got her own place, she just like that. She was very nice to me, and she lets me come over to her house whenever she wants. She'll feed me. She feeds me such good food. She lets me see her cats and all these sorts of things. I'm like, why couldn't you have done this to me sooner? This is very nice, but I'm confused.
Yeah, so just like all those emotions and stuff are really important with just being unique, and yeah.
I also really think that has to do with like personalities themselves. Like we were describing like the different emotions. I feel like that also corresponds with personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah. part to being human is experiencing your own unique thoughts. Individualism is a trait all humans need to have. We need to have the ability to think freely on our own accord. An example of this would be in the Socratic dialogue Allegory of the Cave, written by Plato, who was a philosopher. In the story, people are chained to a wall inside the dark depths of a cave, and there are like evil puppet masters who stand behind them and cast shadows to the wall in front of them. And every action of these individuals' lives are strictly controlled by the puppet masters. They aren't allowed to think for themselves or move on their own or anything of that sort. And a quote from that would be, "At first, when any of him is liberated and compelled suddenly to stand up and turn his neck around and walk towards the light, he will suffer sharp pains." Like, just by attempting to move, this individual was harmed, he was injured, and he was punished for thinking on his own. And I think that takes away from being human, not having the ability to express yourself. What do you guys think?
It's kind of like being mind controlled, and like that takes away your anonymity. I'm not saying that right, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Your
Anonymity?
your personal
Anonymity.
autonomy. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Autonomy? All right.
Yes. So that takes away your personal autonomy. And so these people, they're like losing out on the human experience and what it truly means to be human, because they aren't getting to experience their own thoughts and have their own adventures. People are just controlling them, and they're not getting to move around and dance.
Exactly.
The first time I read Allegory of the Cave, it reminded me of basically a zoo with the humans like face towards the wall being the animals and the puppet masters being the people trying to like be like, "Ooh, look at them," all these sorts of stuff, and they can't do anything about it. They gotta just like keep looking. But they're like missing out on their entire lives, and that's not what it means to be human.
Exactly, and humans need to be able to make their own decisions, and because the puppet masters harmed them, they took away a sense of freedom that is a vital part of being human. Having the ability to do what you want really speaks volumes in the way of humanity, I suppose. Not being able to like freely express themselves in any way, like Quincy said, they are just basically animals
In a cage.
Or a cave in this situation. They're being trapped and living a life with no purpose, no meaning, no freedom, and no humanity. All human beings need to be able to freely express themselves in whatever way they seem fit. They need to have their own thoughts, and being able to express those thoughts in order to make that happen.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's impossible to truly be human without knowing the joys of dancing. No, without
Dancing.
I love dancing.
Without knowing the joys of being able to experience things for yourself and like having thoughts and like, you know, not just responding to base instincts and base needs. Like being reduced to an animal, like Quincy was saying. That's what it essentially is, to be chained and like not experience these human things.
Yeah, and this whole podcast is about what it means to be human. In this case, and in the case of Oxana, it's humans being basically acting like animals, making them not human because they're missing one of the key parts that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and it's like Zach stated earlier, with the robots and stuff, the ability to express yourself freely is something that robots don't have because humans control them. So it's just another example of not
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually really works with the allegory. The
Yeah.
cave, like, being controlled by humans, aka the puppet masters, and not being allowed to make your own decisions, making you, well, not human.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just do want to clarify that although these people are not experiencing what it truly means to be human, they are obviously human and they deserve better than what they are getting.
Yeah,
Yes.
biologically they are human, but they lack the characteristics, I suppose, that really, like, identify with being human.
Yeah, the true human experience is just, like, it's lost to them, unfortunately, through no fault of their own, which is really hard.
And it's almost impossible to try to gain that back. Like, it took Oxana years to be able to learn how to talk and do basic human functions, but unfortunately, she'll never have a normal life.
Yeah, the human functions that she should have been developing had she not been left outside by her parents to the dogs.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to individual thoughts. Like, Oxana probably did not have very complex thoughts because of her upbringing.
Yeah, her brain didn't develop in a way that really allowed her to think freely. She just had to think to survive, because she had been left outside.
Yeah, so much of that is just relying on instincts and not experiencing unique individual thought.
Exactly.
Totally agree with that.
So that about wraps up our podcast. Kind of sums up our main ideas. It's really important to have a true human experience. You need to connect with other humans. You need to experience a lot of emotions, and you need to just have unique thoughts. And those all things, all of those things tie into each other and are all connected. And that's what makes us human. So, any final closing thoughts?
I don't have any.
I don't think so.
All right, then. Thank you for listening to the pod. We hope you had a good time, and catch us next time.
Yep.
Yep.
Molly, Quincy, and Zach signing out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.